Nog has to listen to all of Worf's opera recordings and filter out the subharmonic distortions, while Jake is trying to add a little humor to Kira's speech at the agricultural delegation, and Willie Mays is obviously a time traveler from the future. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Good job, Brian. Way to do it. Way to go.
Cirroc is applauding me because the first time didn't go as well as that one, so we had to redo it. We are reviewing an episode of Deep Space Nine Season 5, episode number 25 in the cards. It's a Nog episode. We are joined by Malissa Longo.
Yeah. There we go.
Hello.
All right, so my name is Ryan T. Husk, but we've got some more important names to mention. Story by Truly Bar Clark and Scott J. Neal. Truly.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely teleplay by Ronald D. Moore. Oh, directed by, I was going to say there's definitely a Lionel Richie joke in there somewhere with Truly. One of the best Lionel Richie songs ever, by the way, ladies and gents. So it's directed by, Melissa, do you want to tell us? We were talking about it off the air.
Yes, Michael Dorn.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a Michael Dorn episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So everybody at home, there's a lot of crazy stuff going out in the world today. But every once in a while, you just kind of want to like hang out and be happy for an hour or so. Let's do that together, shall we? Let's all just have fun, talk about Star Trek. It's like our favorite pastime, and be happy. Yeah, let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Dude, I had forgotten what a quintessential Jake and Nog episode this was. I mean, I knew it was a Jake and Nog episode, but I forgot how many great moments there were. My notes are like a mile long.
Gosh. Yes. I love this episode so much. There's so many gems in it. So many gems.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe did I write I might have watched the wrong episode, guys. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. See, that's how Jake pulls it off. You know?
That happened to me on the Falling Towers. I watched the first, but I really did watch the wrong. We were supposed to watch the first episode of a series, and I watched the second episode, and I was like, I just didn't get it. It's like, because you watched the second episode, dude. Anyway.
I was to say, Ryan's rubbing off on you a lot.
Right? I thought I'd start off with a little trickery since Jake was pretty on the fly when it came to making up a story about Willie Mays. It was pretty good for
oh my gosh.
He had you going there for a minute, did he?
Yeah. And there were a few moments where in this episode where Jake kind of sets Nog up and he's like, let's just tell him, tell him the truth, Nog, we were drunk. Like, don't hide.
I know.
And Nog's like, what? Because when you say it in that type of way, right, there's no real backing out of it because it looks like it's like a trap, right? The more Nog will fight that's a lie, the more it looks like he's trying to cover up that we actually did it. So when you actually say it in that type of way, like, hey, let's come clean, let's tell him, that sets the other guy up. There's nothing he can do about it.
Right, because then if he's going like, no, if he's denying it, you're like, you could just be like, come on, no, just come on, like, just stop. The jig is up. Let's just come on, grow up.
So unfair, especially when Nog is trying to impress Captain Sisko all the time and not, ruin his record.
Well, that's why I thought that I was like, at that point, I thought that Nog should have actually been like, no, because he's actually jeopardizing his career. The only reason I think he's not stepping up to say no is because he's like, well, eventually he'll find out the truth, hopefully, because they can prove it with the card. But if they didn't get the card and then they tell him the story, Sisko's going to think they're just making it up. He's going to be like, oh, really? You were doing this for a Willie Mays card. Is that right? Where is it?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of that. They wrote it well in this episode because there was a moment where Nog, I felt like, could have backed out of the deal. And the moment, I think, was when, okay, he was finally convinced to put up his Latinum to get the card. They finally get the invitation to go see the dealer, the guy with the card. But Nog is hesitant in that moment. He's like, what are you using it for? Like, Jake's like, all right, we got to get this list of stuff. Let's do it. Fine, I'm in. And Nog's like, well, it depends. Like, if you're telling me you're about to build a bomb to blow up the station, I'm not on this.
Yeah, no, I love that part because it shows that he's like got integrity in his work, and he's like, okay, right. So I'm not an arms dealer like my uncle. Right. I feel responsible for what you're actually going to use this for, and if you're going to use it for bad, then I'm out, Jake. Too bad.
Yeah. And so he went through that list, right? He went through the list kind of thinking, all right, you need this and that. I think he was going through the list trying to say, is any of this stuff illegal, like contraband material?
Right.
Or is any of this stuff trying to procure it, is it going to get me in deep trouble? And I think as he went through the list, he was like, all right, this is kind of a bunch of salvage stuff, it's kind of, and this guy has a harebrained time, machine that keeps you alive forever. So,
he's like a conspiracy theorist, this guy.
He kind of was.
Yeah.
He kind of was.
Yeah, technologically savvy conspiracy theorist who's going to keep his cells alive forever by laying in this bed chamber forever while life passes him by forever.
Hey, we're all technologically savvy. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like I remember reading somewhere or hearing somewhere about Michael Jackson having a little cryogenic chamber that he would sleep in or something. So I was wondering if that was partly the inspiration for the people coming up with this story, because it was widely known that Michael Jackson was trying to like sleep in this thing, and it gives you more energy or whatever like that. So the idea was floating around society around
That's
that.
a good point.
Interesting.
Yeah, I had heard that he bathed in leprechaun tears, which was very expensive because we don't have leprechauns here. So he had to ship them in from another dimension.
Well, yeah, they would all have to be imported from a dimension in Ireland, right?
Well,
that's where they
in
are,
a different dimension in Ireland, and they were actually having a dimensional portal strike, workers strike there. So anyway, it's
in Ireland. So
but Michael has the money, or had the money. Look, but honestly, this episode was so freaking good in so many ways. I definitely want to talk about what amounts to be the biggest and most important B plot ever. It was like this little B plot, but it has gigantic ramifications. But before that, I got to point out that the acting between Jake and Nog, between Cirroc and Aron, and individually and together, was so good and so fun to watch. And there were two new things that I feel like I hadn't gotten to see much. One was how many times you both used just a facial expression to convey a mood or a feeling or a punchline. Sometimes a punchline was just, Cirroc raising an eyebrow or going like, looking at him like, or Aron going like, oh boy, or like just all these subtle little faces that the camera, as an actor, it can be super subtle. The camera will pick it up. And you guys had all these little subtle things. And the other one was Jake, the funny guy. That's a rarity. Jake doesn't get to be the funny guy in the episode oftentimes, and there was some great comedic moments and some great comedic delivery, Cirroc, I almost feel like this was the best performance we've seen from these guys so far, just because it was so. I mean, Nog, we get a little bit of humor here and there, especially originally, but I just felt like they allowed you guys to carry this episode with different acting chops. Usually you're carrying it in a serious manner, a dramatic manner. You guys got to show off your acting classes, and I don't know if you remember any of that, or if you looked it up and were super excited. You're like, finally, we get a self-sealing Stembolts episode again. 4 seasons later, where we can really sink our teeth into it.
Yeah, well, one thing that you can't pretend or act is chemistry. If there's no chemistry, it just doesn't work. And it doesn't matter how well written the scene is or how good the director is. If there is actually no chemistry between two people, you can feel it. And that's with relationships, that's with friendships, sexual chemistry between two people. I don't believe that they actually like each other, or have that hot and heavy for each other. So all of that has to actually be felt. That's one thing that Avery and I had such good chemistry together, which made the father-son relationship that much more in depth and believable for everyone, because it was genuine. And there was also at the time is a genuine connection between Aron and I. Mm-hmm. And that connection allows us to flow freely. That's how we talk pretty much. We talk like that off camera. And Melissa knows this better than anybody because she's been there to see these kinds of conversations that we have. But our humor, our going back and forth with each other, the looks Will might give, did you just see that? That's how it goes. We did a panel one day at Creation, I believe, a couple of years ago, and something making us laugh because there was somebody said something in their response, and if you hear it in a different way, it sounded like one of those things where you're like, "Whoa, did he just say that?"
Yeah.
That was during the Far Beyond the Stars panel.
Looked at each other, and you both were just laughing, and nobody else was in on the joke.
No, but he looked at me like, "Did you hear that?" And I heard it, and I couldn't unhear it now. And so we were just laughing, and it just, he would give me the look, and I would give him the look, and it was like it wouldn't go away until we just all right, come on, let's focus here, let's get, But that's the natural chemistry that Aron and I have, and when we get to play that on screen too, it's like, oh, this is our wheelhouse. This is exactly what we do. This is how we communicate with each other. We're open and honest and joking, and sometimes we'll put that guilt trip pressure on you, like, oh, so you're not going to do this for me, not even for my dad who did all this,
I know. Oh my gosh, he was laying it on thick.
Oh yeah, he was laying it on thick, and so he put Nog in a really predicament. He put him in a situation where he was like, well, I like how Nog said, you know how long it took me to save up all that money?
I know.
That's a lifetime worth of savings for me, and I had to get treated like crap by my uncle and do dishes and whatever the else I had to do just to get that, just to scrape that together. So, and I understood that. But I also understood that, hey, you're entering into a new path in your life. You won't be needing Latinum anyways because you're going to be in the Federation. You're part of us now, and, why don't you help your friend out and help out my dad who's been helping you out? So He put the pressure on. And it was definitely a lot of chemistry there. I enjoyed watching Jake and Nog go back and forth in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it was fun to see that Jake knew exactly what buttons to push to get Nog to acquiesce to his request, which was really funny, and you really got to see Jake's creativity like his creative mind in this episode as a writer.
Right. I hadn't thought of that. Right.
That, he mustered up on the fly.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. Like, they're probably thinking, the writers are in there. They're like, hey, dude, he's the most creative guy in there. He's a writer. He can just make stuff up on the fly. He can have fun with it. Oh, I never even made that connection. That's a great point.
Yeah, it is a great point. And they did actually use that several times. So the one time we just mentioned earlier where he makes up the story about, Willie Mays being a time traveler and trying to really sell that with a straight face. And I'm looking at myself saying it. I'm like, yeah.
Well, and I like Nog's reaction to it too. Where he's like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like, ugh. Jake.
And to Ryan's point, a lot of facial expressions in that moment too. Like, I think there was even a moment where after I gave that whole Willie Mays from the future speech, I kind of sit down and
exactly that's what I'm talking about,
and make a moment, kind of an expression where, like, I hope that went over. Like, I hope he buys that kind of a thing. Yeah,
and it was very faint. It was just kind of like you didn't even actually like look at him, but there was like a directed, vibe with him where you kind of went like this and Aron kind of went like this. I mean, it was very subtle, but the camera picks it up because we are naturally watching you for your reaction. So you don't have to make a big reaction. We're looking for something and you gave it to us and it was perfect. Yeah.
And you can see when they cut to Nog, there's this glimmer of a giggle in there. He's like, is this guy gonna buy this or not? Did he just...
Yeah. And Jake is funny because he's like, my dad's the commander of the station, right?
By the way.
Just a reminder. So people will be looking for me and there will be consequences.
And repercussions.
Repercussions.
Talk about name dropping, or don't you know who I am?
It's a don't you know who I am moment. It was
exactly.
But the other time when they showed this whole Jake creative kind of writing characteristic that he has, where he's able to think on the fly and kind of make up stuff off the top of his head. He also made up stuff in the moment where he was telling Nog that he believes Kai Wynn is involved in this scheme, and he's like, "Oh, I know what's going on." Like, he immediately just jumped to the conclusion, like,
yes, he's writing all kinds of stories in his head.
His stories are going on in his head. I can see it. Where is this guy going with this? He's like, now I know. And it was completely all up in his head. So there were definitely moments where the writers played on Jake's creativity or the way his mind works as a writer.
You know what I'm thinking, based on what you guys are saying there, what would have been what was an enormous missed opportunity. It would have been so great to see an episode of Jake taking Nog under his wing and saying, let's have fun today, and taking him into all of the holosuite programs that he created. Because Jake would have come up with all these holosuite programs, and he's like, hey, this one is Dungeons and Dragons. This one is we're winning the championship with the Lakers in the late 21st century or whatever, all this kind of stuff. That would have been so much fun. Jake the writer writing holosuite programs. I mean, we get to see Miles and Bashir. We see some in Next Generation. Would have been cool to see what's going on in Jake's crazy mind.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been a good episode. Jake's holosuite program. He writes a holosuite program, and it kind of had its own adventure to it. But this was good because, number one, baseball has been a big factor in the show, right? The show is centered around baseball. It's kind of the American pastime, but it's also like Sisko's thing and his son's thing. So it's the family thing. And for them to kind of bring a baseball card, specifically Willie Mays, who is this, amazing, phenomenal player who, transcended the game and made history as a black baseball player. One of the greatest.
Quick poll. Is Willie Mays the greatest baseball player of all time? Melissa, what do you think? I say yes.
Well, I mean, it's not a fair question, only because I saw a movie about his life, his story, and it was so great. And so I know that he was a great baseball player, but he's one of the few that I actually know of. So of course I'm gonna say yes.
Sounds like a yes.
I don't have much else to compare it to.
What do you think, Cirroc?
I think if you like San Francisco Giants, then you would say...
I would. That is not where I was going with that, Cirroc Lofton. He was also the godfather to Barry Bonds, but I don't remember what team Barry Bonds played for.
Yeah. I think you have a particular favoritism over here. He's definitely one of the greatest. And, with greatest, it's hard to give that anybody as the greatest because, the generational talent, goes on. And the greatest for their era, for their time, for their team, sure. But I don't like comparing people across the spectrum of generations. It's like that's what they had to prepare for. That's what they were dealing with. But seeing an episode based about a card, right? Based about a baseball card was special for me because I'm a card collector and actually started out collecting cards at a really young age. So this was like a childhood kind of fantasy of mine. We all have those cards that we like cherish or want to cherish, right? For me, it was like a Michael Jordan 86 Fleer.
Yeah.
If I could find that card.
Oh, damn.
No, I don't have it. I have other cards, but I don't have that card. But we all have that card where those of us that collect cards, that one card that is just like, oh, that would be my dream card. Like I would just give anything for it. And to me, this kind of brought back those childhood memories of putting value in something like that. Something like a card that your hero, your baseball hero, your childhood hero growing up. So I like also the sentiment behind that as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it demonstrates the importance of baseball throughout Sisko's upbringing. To know that Willie Mays actually existed, because we're how many years in the future, and having Willie Mays still be a relevant part of baseball history is pretty cool.
So we've got to hit our break right now. We're going to talk a lot more about the Dominion and Kai Wynn and Jake and Nog's incredible performance. But before we go, Cirroc, you are in luck. I found the 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer rookie card, and we can get it for a measly $499,000, $999.
Wow.
So
pocket change.
Yeah.
So basically we just need to find it, right? That was the main thing. So it's found.
just for the record, when I was a kid and collecting cards, and that was my dream card.
It was probably like $10, $20.
No, it was $6,000 at the time.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Whoa.
At the time, it was $6,000 if you wanted that card, and I was like, $6,000 for one card. Well,
if you had gotten it,
if I had gotten that card, I would have been really set right now.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I've got 3 Barry Bonds rookie cards. I've got a Shaquille O'Neal rookie card, but I don't even have any Jordan stuff, and I would love that. Anyway, sorry, Melissa. I swear we're going to talk about Star Trek on the other side of the break. All right. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule.